Shabbat Shalom. How does a Jew greet another Jew on Tisha B'Av? My father taught me this practice, which is not widely known. There is a unique greeting for only that one day of the year, that saddest and heaviest day of the Jewish year. We take up the words of the prophet Jeremiah, the one who witnessed the destruction of Jerusalem's first temple, and we say to one another, Shalom, Shalom, ve'ein Shalom. Peace, peace we desire, and yet there is no peace. I have been feeling off all summer. Since the Iran war, which closed the airspace over Israel and canceled the very special trip that I had planned to take with ministers from Timothy Eaton Church, and canceled the study time that I treasure in the summertime to go to the Hartman Institute in Jerusalem, also canceled. And I've had a sinking feeling of dread since I learned that our beloved Cantor Emeritus, Benny Meisner, was really struggling with his health. This sense that perhaps his life was coming to an end. And now, like many of you, and most of all, like the Meisner family, I feel off balance and I feel disoriented without him in the world. These strange feelings that something isn't right, that something has snapped, that something has come undone. This feeling came again this week when Prime Minister Carney made his announcement of his intention to recognize a Palestinian state in September. And I know not everyone feels the way I do, and that makes for good conversation. I welcome that conversation. If you'd like to hear my early thoughts on the matter, you can turn to the video that I sent as a message to the congregation yesterday before Shabbat. That feeling that something has changed, that something important has been broken, that came again when I learned that a sign had been put up by municipal order on the front of our sanctuary. It has to do with the bubble legislation, which we've been hearing about for a long time now, and many of us feel, including myself, that it is good legislation for all Canadians. It protects freedom of speech and the right to gather, and it also creates a buffer zone between the demonstrators and the community members at risk, the community institutions that may be at risk, like synagogues, for example. So I was pleased when I heard this legislation come down, but I was shocked to learn that this big sign was placed on our proud sanctuary. You may have noticed it. If you haven't, let me share some of the language with you. It's about notice of access. An access area has been established for the following social infrastructure under Article 12 of the City of Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 743, on streets and sidewalks. Use of Holy Blossom Temple, 1950 Bathurst Street. The access area covers any city property within 50 meters from the boundary of the property. While in an access area, no person may, 1, perform or attempt to perform an act of discouragement concerning a person's attendance of that property. 2, a person may not obstruct or hinder or interfere or attempt to obstruct, hinder, or interfere with any person's access to that place. And I'll name the final point. 1 may not express an objection or disapproval towards any person based on race, ancestry, place of origin, color, ethnic origin, citizenship, religion, creed, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, age, marital status, family status, disability, and so on. So many categories of people who might be at risk. And then that portion concludes, by any means, including graphic, verbal, or written means. So it's very clear. And it says, if you're coming to this place to express hate or harm for the people here, you need to stand at a distance when you do so. And that's a good message. But to slap this sign on our sanctuary, saying so, was very upsetting for me. It felt to me like requiring an abused woman to wear a sign around her neck saying, "I am a woman at risk. And if my abuser comes within 50 meters of me, he should be warned, he should know that he could be arrested or fined if he comes with the intention of doing me harm." That's how it feels to me. And I feel that such a sign does not belong on our sanctuary. So we've moved it at a distance, still within the municipal requirements. And then we are taking one step more, so that voice, that legal language expressing this is a place that might be targeted, isn't the only voice that passersby might hear. They aren't the only words that passersby might read. So we've crafted a message that can go next to each one of these signs that are stationed at all the boundaries of our campus. And it says this: "Dear congregants and neighbors, this is a safe and sacred space. While we appreciate the newly established bubble zone intended to protect us, we wish we were not required to post this sign and look forward to the day when it can come down. Until then, we pray, V'yashvu ish tachat gafno, v'tachat einato, v'ein macharid. May everyone soon sit under their grapevine and fig tree with no one to make them afraid." This language from the prophet Micah is turned upside down and inside out for the Haftarah that is traditionally read on Tisha B'Av. Many congregations will read his words tomorrow from Jeremiah as the Haftarah. There it is written, "Asof asifem ne'um Adonai." I will make an end of them, declares the eternal God. Ein anavim bagefen. No grapes will be left on the vine. Ve'ein te'enim be'te'ena. And no figs will be left on the fig tree. The leaves will be withered, all of them. Whatever I have given them is gone. Alma anachnu yoshvim. What are we just sitting here waiting for? Let us gather into the fortified cities and meet our doom there. For the Eternal One has doomed us, has made us drink a bitter draught, because we have sinned against the Eternal. We had hoped for good fortune, but no happiness came. We had hoped for a time of relief, but instead there is terror. There is something admirable about this Jewish response to suffering. The traditional Jewish response to suffering, which we hear throughout much of our biblical texts, including the book of Lamentation, throughout much of the Tanakh, much of the rabbinic literature as well. It is a message that we have done something wrong to bring on this suffering. This suffering is just punishment from the just God who demands justice on earth. So if we suffer, when we suffer, we need only to search our ways, to do teshuvah, to mend our ways, and then God will restore us to a place of favor. What is admirable about this theology? It keeps us self-reflective. It keeps us self-critical. It has us constantly asking ourselves and one another, How could we have done better? What did we miss? Where did we go wrong? How can we make this right? How am I responsible? And questions like these are the guardrails that keep us good and protect society. We have begun that annual journey, that Jewish trek from the 17th of Tammuz, when the walls of Jerusalem were breached, to this day of Shabbat Chazon, the Shabbat of Vision, through tomorrow's Tisha B'Av, when Jerusalem was destroyed and our people taken as captives into exile, not once but twice, through the month of Elul, the last month of the year, through Slichot, Rosh Hashanah, Shabbat Shuvah, Yom Kippur, up until that very last shofar blast at the end of Ne'ilah. It is a grand and challenging and beautiful journey of self-reflection as individuals, as self-reflection of us as a people. These many weeks from the hottest days of summer up until the harvest festival of Sukkot, we ask the questions of the Teshuvah process. How could we have done better? How could I have done better? What did we miss? What did I miss? Where did we go wrong? Where did I go wrong? How can we make this right? How can I make this right? How are we responsible? How am I responsible? And questions like these are the guardrails that keep us good. Ad kan, up until a point. At some point, we have to be willing to turn our eyes in additional directions towards other actors and towards others who refuse to act. And we must ask, how are they responsible? It can't all be me. I am not the only one who must be held to account here. Without the outward reflection to accompany and complement the inward reflection, we put ourselves at risk in other ways. Shabbat Chazon says we must be able to see it all, to cast our vision wide, or at least try. The theologically controversial book of Job was included in our biblical canon to say ad kan, up until a point. Yes, in our sanctuaries, soon enough we will pound our chests. We will take an inventory of our transgressions. We will take an accounting of our failures. And in the newspapers and on social media, we will write and share messages of self-critical opinion about our poor judgment and all the could-haves and the should-haves and would-haves and if-onlys. But in their wisdom, the rabbis included Job's voice too, saying ad kan, up until a point. At the expense of theological consistency, our sages give him a place among all the biblical voices that stack up on the other side of the scale. Job says, I didn't do anything to deserve this suffering. Put me on trial, interrogate my deeds, and let the record show that I do not deserve all this pain. This is a moment of tension for us. On the one hand, we must be self-reflective and self-critical and set out a plan, a serious plan to self-correct. And on the other hand, we must be able to say to ourselves and to one another, we do not deserve all of this suffering. It cannot be so. We have been mistreated and misunderstood, and we will not be a victim. We will take responsibility for the path that we carve out for the Jewish future. Part of this tension that I'm naming today, part of the problem is that internal work is now being done very publicly. What should be a private internal conversation, by definition, has been made very public. Teshuvah work, think of the High Holy Days. We come to a very public place to do very private, personal reflection. But for the Jewish people and the Jewish state, the private is made public now, the internal is made external, and it may just be that this is our fate. All our personal and communal teshuvah work is on display for the world to see and to scrutinize. This seems to be the role that we have been assigned again and again throughout our history, for reasons we will never know. This seems to be God's will for us. This is the unique part of the Jewish people, the unique part that the Jewish people must play for the sake of all humanity. So let us rise to the occasion. Let us rise to this assignment. Let us rise as best we can to this difficult and often painful mission, for it is also a sacred task. God says to Job, "You are human, you are mortal, I see that. What you don't know about this universe, how it was constructed, how it is designed, from the universes contained in a single cell to the dark matter contained in the vast cosmos, what you don't know about the ways of the world that I created is a lot. And what you don't know about the intricate system of divine justice and divine mercy is also a lot. So do your best to stay in your lane, your very narrow by comparison human lane, and I will be with you there." And Job is quiet. So on this Shabbat Chazon, we hear the words of Jeremiah, who says, "You are entirely responsible for this mess, for this broken world, for this destruction, this doom." And we also hear the words of Job, who says, with great courage, "I know in my bones that I am not entirely responsible for all this brokenness. Study it and let the record show." I have more to say, but I think I'm going to save it for another day. Tomorrow we will say to one another, "Shalom, shalom, ve'ein shalom." But today I say to you on this Shabbat Chazon, on this Shabbat of vision, Shabbat Shalom. Let it be a Shabbat of peace for us, for the Jewish people everywhere, and for all the world. Amen.